everybody, and welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week, Scott's pick, The Mutilator. And before we even dive into this, I just have to say, this is a movie that I've talked a lot of shit about in the past. This was the most enjoyable time I've ever watched The Mutilator. I need to put that out there. I don't know if it was...
Brave.
Yeah,
No.
I don't know if it was
Don't
because
take
it was
that from
following
me.
a watching of Howling New Moon Rising, but like...
I thought it was a perfect double feature. The Mutilator and Howling 7 was going to be my double feature if I didn't already watch it as a double feature. So,
But Scott, how about you tell us why, after all these years, we finally decided to pull the jump cord on The Mutilator?
Because as everyone who's ever listened to this fucking show knows, because I am an oversharer, I love seasonally appropriate horror. And I've been unable to do The Mutilator for the entirety of the time that we've done Listener Submitted Month in September. Because this movie technically is a fall break movie. Because of that, I could never let myself do it in October. Because fall break is in September.
when the fuck is fall break?
I honestly don't know. I was originally going to do it in November, but when we get to November, like, I have always wanted to do it. Mm-hmm. I had notes from like 3 years ago that I augmented for this. I did rewatch it, but this is my second time watching it for the show. And I feel like you could do this as a Thanksgiving kind of movie, because fall break for me when I was in college was Thanksgiving week.
Right.
But they're out, and I mean, this was probably filmed in the spring or summer, but so it's this weird, like, yeah. It's definitely football season, because there are cheerleaders at the beginning before they leave for their trips. So let's just say that fall break is in the end of September, and I am seasonally appropriate with my pick. But yes, I picked it because of that. Its working title was Fall Break, and it has such a killer fucking theme song. It's like so Hall & Oates if you got them from Great Value.
Yeah, it's
beautiful. It is literally... This movie bounces between being a teen slasher movie and a late 70s National Lampoon's road trip movie. The Fall Break song could have literally just been Holiday Road from Vacation, and it would have felt exactly the same. I have put this movie into a DVD player at least 4 times.
Yeah.
I think last night was the first time I truly watched this movie.
Yeah.
Because for a really long time, I would always complain that, like, this is one of the biggest box art to movie quality issues.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, the box art is beautiful. It's amazing. And then I'm like, and the movie's just garbage. But the first 3 times I watched this movie, it was a VHS PS bootleg rip that was a little grainy. This time, it was on an Arrow Blu-ray disc. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I was like, how have I not been watching this movie for the last like 20 years? Like, I had it was similar to when I watched that Vinegar Syndrome Pledge Night DVD, where I was just like, there's something about this movie that feels like I should have been watching it for the last 15 years. Like, the idea that it took me this long. I don't think I ever realized how brutal and gory some of the kills are in this movie. Yeah. So much so that it apparently got an X rating when they originally submitted it. But also, like, I was reading a bunch of reviews, and like, critics are really split on this. They, like, the internet critics either think it is the worst thing that has ever happened in a slasher franchise, or a lot find it to be one of the more charming, forgettable, like, one-off movies.
Yeah.
And their reasoning being that, like, they found the characters actually likable versus some of the other real duds where it's just like, you don't give a shit about the characters and can't wait for them to die.
Right.
I didn't mind the points where we were just hanging out with these kids as they were like goofing around and playing games. Like, I'm like, all right.
Well,
they're not like
I would say definitely
terrible.
On your Arrow disc, you could at least see the hide and seek scene. Oh wait, no, it was completely lit. And you could know, and everybody was just pretending not to see a damn person in that household. But I agree. Like, I also think that I felt this way about the Mutilator too, where I remember feeling like it wasn't that fun, and it was, and Carly had felt it too, because the first half of it, maybe half is a loose term, but the first parts of it, even though there's the theme song and there's goofy shit and it feels like a little like tonally off, it didn't seem fun. Like it wasn't the most enjoyable slasher that I had seen. And I think that probably, I would imagine it turned me off from the first time that I watched it, but this second viewing was a lot more fun. Right up until the end.
Dude, we'll get there,
Yes,
but
we
the
will.
last
Yeah.
like 5 minutes of this movie is fucking, that alone is like worth the price of admission.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I'm curious to see what we do double feature wise on this one, because I'm torn between two movies that have an equal level of just like slow, boring parts followed by absolute bonkers ass gory bullshit.
Yeah. I wrote down 3. Like the same way that Howling 7 was probably really fucking hard to think of.
Just one.
Yeah.
This one, it's narrowing.
I could
it down
watch
to which
all.
one.
We could plan a whole horror movie a night based on this. Whoa, shit! When's the next fundraise? When's the next 15-hour session? When are we
Oh
gonna
my
do
God!
that again?
Do you
The
know
horror
how
movie
difficult
night.
it would be for Matt to do that, because there's so much blood and boobs and in stuff that I know that we'll get there. Listeners,
Yeah.
if you're even remotely wondering, Kyle and I are on the same.
I'm pretty
page
sure
on
we
this.
have the same 2 to 3 titles
Yes,
written down.
absolutely. Yeah.
So, I mean, let's just start from the very beginning. Like, unlike Howling 7, where I was like, I don't even know where to start with this shit. So we're just going to, like, this one we can actually follow a little beat by beat. We have this flashback scene. Kid is cleaning his dad's gun collection, and the
Idiot.
child handwritten sign that says, "Happy birthday, Daddy, I cleaned them all."
Yep.
Like, just that alone made me laugh. And then this kid accidentally discharges one of the loaded guns and kills his mom, who's like making a birthday cake in the kitchen. And you're just like, what the fuck?
What a,
like, it is such like a
imagine
what
yourself
the fuck
in the
opening.
80s watching this movie, knowing what you're expecting to get, and then you get the first taste of it in the first 2 minutes. It's like, it must have been so satisfying. But the best thing about, well, first of all, that squib work was so damn good.
So good.
Yeah.
And I wrote what I think is, I mean, this was from my first set of notes. Squib work so nice they had to show it twice, because they literally recycled the squib work to show mom dying twice. I mean, honestly, if my kid killed my fucking wife, I would hate him too.
Yeah, but in walks in seemingly the least devastated father in that scene I've ever seen. I'm gonna chalk it up to shock, but
You're gonna shock it up?
I'm gonna shock it up to chalk, and and I think that he just walked in like it was any other fucking Wednesday. But obviously that changed his position on
Ruin my
things
birthday,
changed.
you little shit.
Yeah.
But what I don't understand, so this
Cleaned them
movie-
all. What about mom?
Yeah,
Cleaned her
this
too.
one jumps this movie jumps all over the place in the sense of like you have this kind of emotionally heavy, fucked up opening scene, and then we just jump 10 years into the future or so, and the kid's just a fun-loving college student. This
No
thing
trauma
that
in
he
the
did to
world,
his
dog.
mom has like no effect on him as a human being. He's just living life, and that's when we get our first of many tastes of the Fall Break theme song.
So good.
That is
well, before
just...
they even get in the car for their break, or is it after? They're like sitting at that bar drinking beers, like talking about leaving, right?
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, so maybe
With
it's
the video
because,
game music playing in the background?
Oh man, I'm gonna set a new score on Video Machine, and then she like blinks about 20 times in the course of 5 seconds. Total coke binge. For me, the thing that is kind of a suspension of disbelief here is I have a really hard time, this concept that we see in 80s movies, and we'll get into it with double features too, for sure. People just sat at bars and drank beer. Like, I'm 40 now, and I have never just, I don't think I've just hung around a bar and drunk beer and like just hanging out. The only time I ever hung out at a bar is like because I'm playing a show or I'm going to a show. You know, like I'm literally only at bars to see live music.
I feel like filmmakers, especially in the 80s, always wanted to show college kids drinking, and it makes more like I have hung out in diners for hours. But I agree with you, like hanging out in a bar, like absolutely not. Like
In the
like,
middle
there's-
of the day?
Yeah,
It
like,
seems
getting
too
a little tipsy at this like college
Natty Light?
shitty bar. I don't know, man. And they try to do this shit in modern TV shows every once in a while too. I think it was The Order. Did you guys watch any of that show? It came a couple years ago, I think. I think it was a Netflix show, but they're like, it's like the Skulls more or less, but they, like they're magicians. I'm like, first of all, you're not old enough to be at the bar drinking, and second of all, it's light out. I mean, okay, maybe let me do a small caveat that when I was in college, I would go to like a local bar, quote unquote, but it was like a bar and grill. I would go on Wednesday nights and we would eat hot wings. I wouldn't just go there and drink beer.
Right. I would say the only reason, because now I think about it, there was one bar that I used to hang out in a bunch in my 20s called Dead Presidents, but it was because it was like kind of I wouldn't say it was a dive bar, but like it wasn't like packed. It didn't have a ton of music, and I was friends with the girl who was the bartender. So like me and our friends would go and just like hang out and shoot the shit, and we had full control of the jukebox. So it was like a nonstop like pop punk and 80s like rock anthems, and it was like the 10 of us and like the 2 other like 40-year-old regulars that sat at the bar, but it was just like
your intentions were very different than what's going on here in Fall Break.
100%. And it was like a Sunday night when we knew it would be slow. Like, like we weren't going to go in there on Friday or Saturday when it's like pandemonium in the bar. Like, but no, I agree with you. Even like,
well, and they just had no fall break plans. They're just sitting
just
around,
it out right then and there.
Like, and by somebody calling him at the bar, like they already knew that he was just sitting there waiting.
How do they know? There were no cell phones. How did you know the bar phone number?
How? Where you looked up the yellow pages and you're like, homeboy's there, like for sure.
Well, I will say,
him and all his
actually,
friends.
now that you raised one point though that I do actually have to call out as making sense.
Okay.
Because you said, well, you have no fall break plans. I have never had fall break plans.
Yeah. Well, I guess I didn't know fall break existed until now.
Fall break was essentially we're giving you 2 extra days because it's Thanksgiving week, and like, you're going to be hanging out with your family. It's like congratulations, we gave you Monday and Tuesday as well because we knew your asses weren't going to be here Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday.
Exactly. Fair. So they got stuck.
So like, no one makes those plans. But then it's like, well, was he planning to go to the condo with his dad anyway? And it's just like, oh, I guess we got like, it doesn't make any sense. None of that. But you know what? I don't care.
No, I don't care because it doesn't.
We've seen a child murder his mom.
Yeah.
He's totally fine with no trauma. Let's play the Hall & Oates music.
And let's get to this condo.
So we get to this
drink
condo.
More shitty beer and like
more Natty Light.
Did you guys feel like they were in a time warp because it felt like it was night forever?
Yeah. No, it was only daytime in that bar, and then when they got there, it was night. But they kept mentioning the time, and they're like, "Oh, it's only." I think they said something about it being only like 9 o'clock or something.
If you had told me this movie was over a 2-day period, I would have totally just been like, "Yeah."
The first time I watched it, which I believe was in late college or right after college, I thought there was days. But no, it's one night, which makes a lot more sense continuity-wise when you think about the dad hunting all of the friends because he's never hunted. He's hunted everything but ... man.
Yeah.
They were going to have this be called Fall Break: Deadliest Game, but then they couldn't get the rights to Deadliest Game.
I do think that Mutilator is a much better name than Fall Break for the remake. But
I do too. And you know what I knew about the Mutilator. Okay, so it was in high school when I saw this movie for the first time. It was after I got out of college because I only knew about this movie after seeing Behind the Mask because they use the exact same tagline: by axe, by knife, bye-bye, or by axe, by scythe, bye-bye, or whatever it is that they or they it's a very straight homage to the Mutilator. And somebody mentioned the Mutilator, and I watched it, and I was like, because I was like, with my snifter of brandy watching Behind the Mask. We're like, this is elevated slasher cinema. I mean, it's a fucking great movie, but let's not discount the fact that shitty slashers like The Mutilator is a great time.
Yeah, well, but this is like, I am excited. I am legitimately excited when we have an experience like we're having right now with The Mutilator, right? Because, like, I think of the movies that we have been like, I watched that in college. I don't know if we can get a good episode out of it. And then we just kind of like push it in the back of our minds. And then like, 7 years hit. And we're like, I don't know. Do we want to give the Mutilator a shot? And then we're all like, fuck.
Yeah.
This was way better than I remember the Mutilator. Like, now I'm like, I don't know. Like, maybe we can do some of these movies that I thought were trash when I was 19.
You guys weren't going to be into this one because, I mean, it's unabashedly a kill comp, and I'm totally fine with that for what it is because I think that if you go into this movie in modern day, understanding that it's a goofy fucking slasher and you're really just there for some cool squib work and, like, practical effects because there was no, like, everything was in camera and it's amazing and that's what makes this movie great.
Well, the other thing that is really great about this movie, and I think it shows, I learned this in IMDb, but we've talked about, like, movies that maybe aren't from, like, a artistic standpoint masterpieces. And the example I always use is, like, Empire Records. Like, Empire Records, I love that movie, but, like, there's really not much going on in that script. It's teenagers hanging out in a record store. But when you're watching it, you can tell that everyone is having a blast working on the movie, and it, like, makes it enjoyable. And everything that I read was, like, no one wanted to go home from the set of The Mutilator. Like, they shot it in continuity, and everybody who died was just like, fuck it, I'm just hanging out. Like, I'm having a great time. Like, everyone became
in a horror
friends.
movie. I would be like, I'll do 30 days on set. Fuck my job. I'm also 40, so probably wouldn't work out quite as well as 20-somethings playing 19-year-olds.
But I think that shows. Like, I think that we've all watched slasher movies where you can tell that the actors do not enjoy each other's company.
And that the actors
they're supposed
spent
to pretend to be
2 days
friends.
on set. There's so many of those.
But this one, it's like you can tell that these guys and gals became legitimate friends with each other on set because, like, they seem like they're actually, like, doing that stupid hide and seek game. They look like they are having so much fun with how stupid this thing is that they're doing. Like, you can feel their fun coming through the screen when you're watching it a little bit. But basically, for the next 45 minutes, it's just them dicking around. So let's just get to the kills at this point because it's like 45 minutes of them dicking around having fun, and then 45 minutes of just like you said, just a kill comp at this point. It is just one after another, and in increasingly more brutal ways. Like, sometimes I think movies like this will start off with, like, the big crazy one out the gate, and then the rest are feeling tame by comparison. But
not this.
This is all escalation from this point.
The big crazy one was story setup, and then the rest of it is, like, it wasn't even crazy, but, like, it was unexpected, and then the rest, the gradual. Oh my god, the build up to each one, it was just so good.
So I do have one quick, like, moment of regret when I was watching this both times for the show. When the girl gets skewered in the crotch with a giant fish hook, I was like, oh no. And I was watching that, I was scared that we weren't going to have a good time talking about it, but it's not nearly as bad as Sleepaway Camp with a hot curling iron in the crotch.
It does a weird thing. So let me ask you about this, because, and I don't want to linger on this particular kill too much, but it does this weird thing where when I was watching it, I almost feel like the director had, like,
second thoughts.
Second thoughts, because the setup seems like it's going there, but then when it cuts to the actual side of the hook, it looks like it just went through the stomach, like, almost, and not
like thigh to stomach. Like, it was
like, it's almost, when they cut to it later, it's like, fooled you. But I think it was literally the director just being like, no, you know what, I don't feel okay.
And for someone in the 80s, a man directing a slasher in the 80s, to be like, let's pull that back a little bit. It's fucking impressive, all right?
Yeah. Well, again, because the actors do look like they're having a good time, so it doesn't seem like it was maybe them necessarily being like, nah, don't. Like, it was like maybe him being like, nah, don't.
And I want to say, like, a lot of the negative reviews I saw were like, oh, like, it's shot poorly, blah, 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 blah. But, like, there are certain shots, like, I think that right before she gets the extremely way too much slow motion drowning scene, like, there's a shot of her, like, floating on like that cloudy water that I think is a very well put together shot.
It was comparable to Ty West's X, the promo image that we see of her floating with her head in the water, and I was like, that's that to me. Like, I was like, that's beautiful. And then the slow-mo really killed it for me, but the shot was beautiful until like there was the incorrect frames per second slow-mo.
Yeah, but then after that, we just start to, like, that's probably the tamest kill. And I mean, drowning is horrific, but yes.
But drowning is one of those kills that never really pays off in a movie. So,
no, it doesn't play well.
Yeah, it's fine.
But, man, We go from a drowning immediately to a motorboat motor in the stomach.
Oh, that's a good one. I mean, good.
That was
But,
you know what?
so like, let's let listeners know that we are not usually the kind of guys that are like, saying how great kills are in a movie. We really don't do this very often. But when you're looking at a movie like this, and you can tell that the people aren't, or at least it seems in a historical view that everybody was having a good time and wasn't feeling exploited, that it's okay to do this kind of conversation.
It's honestly, for a movie called Mutilator with a box art like Mutilator, the fact that there's like one topless scene in the entire movie feels really reserved for an 80s slasher movie. Like it's like, there was a point where I'm like, they're not going to show any nudity. Yeah, but even when they were like getting into the pool, like there was this very weird like sensual piano solo as they were getting ready to like get into the pool. But because of the way it was shot, I'm like, I guess this is one of those movies where there's just no nudity, and it was like only one shot or two where you even saw anything. I was like, wow, this is really reserved.
Yeah, it is
for what it is.
It is. I mean, the gray sweater budget was up pretty high, so I think they needed to use it at all times. The fact that there was two female characters wearing the same sweater in the same scene / like time frame, I was just like, don't do this. But they didn't really take it off. They just kept them on, and I had to distinguish every time who was who. What are you gonna do?
The motorboat kill is pretty gnarly.
Yeah.
But I still was like, I liked it, but I'm like, this isn't wowing me just yet. But it's the next kill where the police officer gets decapitated. I was just like, holy shit. Yeah. Like, that was like the you now have my attention moment.
Big time.
for this. And then it literally did not relent from that point. Each one of these kids gets in a different way. We've talked about the most horrific one, which is straight up gutting a girl like a fish, which we got to talk about that. So not so much how she dies, but there's this whole thing where, first of all, it's clear that something is wrong. Eric and Pam have the correct idea, which is we got to go talk to the police. This girl is like, we're not going there until we find my boyfriend, which it's like, you should probably go to the police and then let the police find your boyfriend because things are seeming very wrong. But then they're like, let's split up, which Eric's original plan is him and girl who's looking for the boyfriend will go one way and Pam will go the other. Pam, being the only human being that fully understands that she's in a horror movie, is like, I ain't going anywhere alone. You're coming with me. So girl looking for the boyfriend, they separate. She walks all of 5 feet.
Yes.
Before the dad attacks. Eric and Pam don't hear a goddamn thing.
No. They are already somehow at the police station. Because the police do show up. So they must have made it. They must have jogged. I guess maybe that's when the sweater came off. It's hot. Fall break's hot. But I thought the same exact thing. I was like, that garage is open. Like
He's
they did
throwing
not
her around.
They're not hearing. He wiped off everything from that workbench. Every goddamn thing onto a maybe concrete or at least like rocky surface. Like no clinking and clanging.
I think
aerosol cans fucking blowing up. Like anything.
I think we missed the deleted scene where Eric and Pam both simultaneously put their headphones on and start listening to the Fall Break song.
Fall Break.
Yeah. I mean that scene, I was like, this is fucking bonkers. There's also there's a pitchfork through the throat, which classic in the 80s. Yes. It's always a good look. There's a scene that I wrote down that was one of the there is one moment, and it was this moment where my jaw dropped and I was just like, what am I watching? Which is when there's a split second of sped up footage for like this vaudeville exit when he leaves the bedroom, where I was like, what just happened?
Yeah.
Where he does like a and they like actually speed up the footage to feel like an old-timey silent film as he makes his exit. I was like, why is that there?
Because at that point in time in the movie, I thought we like abandoned all goofballness. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because there's all that goofy shit.
Because we just watched 4 people get slaughtered back to back to back.
I think
seems like
gotta lighten it up, guys.
I think that this is actually, if I think about it, like this is my ideal layout for a slasher movie. Like this is my ideal format. Like up front with the goofiness, you throw me like friends getting ready and doing some silly shit that I'm like, is that 80s or is that just weird? And then they get to their location. They do some other goofy shit there. And then you're right, like the last 45 minutes is kill, 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 kill. And me not hating any of these characters. Like that's an ideal setup. They can still be shallow. I don't need to know much of anything about them, but I still need to not watch them.
Just be waiting for their
I don't love that concept that we get a lot where they'll make you hate a character just so that they think you'll enjoy watching them get hacked up. It doesn't do it for me.
No. I'm still okay with them liking them and them getting killed because I've that's what I've bought into. Like
I just want to.
I know what I'm
watch
here
likable
for.
people. That
the movie's
I don't
called
know.
The Mutilator.
Yeah, like I know what's gonna happen.
So
I'm pretty sure I know what's gonna happen.
So after, let me do this math real quick. So after 38 years, they just finished wrapping last month Mutilator 2.
No.
Same director.
What?
Same writer-director. And I met one of the stars at Comic-Con as we were wrapping up our booth. He was walking around wearing a Mutilator 2 t-shirt that they made for the cast and crew. And him and Jonathan are in conversation for him to do some promotions on a Geekscape shows.
Guys.
So we may, I can't make any promises, guys. But we may have some ins for when Mutilator 2
Let's fucking
drops.
Go.
Oh my god, I am
go,
fully
dude.
Torqued right now.
Yeah.
Well, and I was also like, I didn't rewatch the Mutilator, so at the time I was like, I don't want to make any promises until I rewatch this movie. But man, I am definitely going to make sure that I hit up Jonathan and be like, yo, you still got the contact information for that Mutilator 2 guy? Because holy shit, did we have fun. But we cannot stop talking about this movie until we talk about this final scene, Big Ed's kill, where he is on the back of the truck. He's on the back of their car. They finally get I have to applaud both actors who are inside the car, who legitimately are acting like two human beings who are convinced that they are about to die. Yeah. Like they are just like this. Like they are like weeping and like panicked. And then finally they get the car to start. They drive backwards at full speed, smash him into a wall, which. It's not until later it's revealed sliced fully in half. And as the cop walks up to declare the body dead, for a split second he musters enough energy to leap up and hop off a leg real fast off this cop.
Incredible.
For no other reason than more violence.
Exactly. I mean, don't compare.
Going out with a bang.
And then just credits. Back to we are once again in a National Lampoon's movie, because then the closing credits are just wacky shots of everybody having a good time with this upbeat fall break song. It is so
That's incredible.
Bizarre.
It's incredible. I love the
the first one's blooper-ish, and it was, I would assume it's the director's son because it was another Cooper. So there's Buddy Cooper, and then there was a boy Cooper, or like maybe a nephew, and then I believe the wife, because then the mom was the wife of Buddy Cooper, because then she ended up being on the caterers list. I was eyeballing the shit out of this because I was like, this is homegrown beauty, like at its best.
This is one of the best rediscoveries we have ever had on horror movies.
It was fun, man.
Like I had fully written off the Mutilator.
Yeah.
That was like a Blu-ray that was sitting on my shelf just because the box art is gorgeous and I trust Arrow to do like a good restoration. And now I'm like, I will probably watch this again. In the next
year.
In a year.
Like,
it's not like
it's not an every 6 months kind of watch though.
No, definitely within a year.
Watch for sure.
Fall break watch. It's your favorite fall break movie.
Hi listeners, I'm Carolina.
And I'm Tessa. And together we are Femme Regard Podcast.
Femme. We are a show dedicated to educating and entertaining underdeveloped filmmakers and film enthusiasts alike.
We love sharing our experiences as filmmakers, what we've learned and what we've gone through.
And we love bringing on professional industry guests.
We want our listeners to learn from the best and get an honest account of the biz.
So come join the Fem Fam and give us a listen every Friday.
Streaming on all the major podcast platforms, including YouTube and our website, femregard.com, and of course, the Geekscape Network.
All right, Scott, let's start with you. What is the double feature that you're going to go with?
It's impossible to pick just one, but I'm going to pick one. You guys can pick one, and then we can round robin until we're out of double features.
Yeah.
I like that.
My first, most likely to double feature with this is Blood Rage, because
Oh, yep.
I like how Matt's like click, click, pen, scribbling. Because Blood Rage is another movie that I feel like the blue just changed everything. You know,
Yeah.
like seeing it in higher definition, seeing a better restoration, seeing an actual restoration of it instead of the gritty like VHS rip. Makes
And it's
it
also a straight kill comp once
it is a kill
ramps up.
comp, and
Yeah.
it's also fun, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. I fucking love Blood Rage. Also, if we're talking Fall Break, then so Fall Break is the next the next relatively obscure holiday, obviously not Halloween, because Halloween's not an obscure holiday, but after that you're just gonna go whoop right into Thanksgiving kills, because you don't have a whole lot of Thanksgiving movies.
And as we've said, Fall Break and Thanksgiving could be the same week depending on
could.
what college you're going.
Right.
Could.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
I might be
it's
wrong.
very feasible. Kyle, you said that you had 3, so I'm going to go next because
Yes.
I only
No, we're
have
gonna
one
go
remaining.
round robin. Everybody does one until we're out of them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be out of them after I say this.
Oh.
That is what I'm saying. So, I mean, I would have rather picked Blood Rage because it is a slightly more fun movie. But even a blind man could see how much this movie connects with pieces
Yeah.
between the
Beautiful.
kid kill in the beginning, the like completely outrageous character that you think is dead coming back to life for one
more
last
kill,
scare
yep.
at the end, like, and then also a movie that is just filled with kill compilations, just over the top gory kill compilations. It's a little bit more grimy, it's a little bit more grindhousey. I think you're right with Blood Rage. Blood Rage tonally fits a little bit better, but format wise, this and pieces are like that.
I wouldn't
maybe.
be mad about that double feature. Kyle, what about you?
All right,
Make me
Kyle,
happy,
what's
buddy.
the last one that you
I
had?
see those are beautiful, fun, pleasant, a good time, and I never do that. I'm picking a movie, and I realize that one of my 3 is actually what Carly has suggested, and it doesn't. I mean, it counts, but it doesn't totally count. My immediate pick is a movie called Sledgehammer.
That's on my long list.
It's a shot on video, real piece of shit, but man, is it friends doing friend
off my
things
list.
that friends don't ever do to each other, like a food fight in a rental house, just shit that
Fall
is
Break.
beyond Fall Break stuff, like real Fall Break stuff. It's a movie that I love showing people and I love watching with people, and though The Mutilator is top tier, Sledgehammer would be a good B, like ride out the Doritos until the very bitter end.
I believe
So you're
that's
just
on.
dumping a bag
I believe
of
that's
Cheeto
on
dust
Shudder,
into
isn't
your
it, or is
mouth.
that Prime?
If it's on Shudder, I'd be surprised, but also at the same time, they put a lot of stuff on there. I think it would be on Prime for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, just know if we ever do Sledgehammer, I will in fact be singing the Peter Gabriel
No,
song
Yes.
once in that episode.
I wanna watch.
Sledgehammer. Sledgehammer.
Yeah.
All right. So
All right.
next, if we're
Yes.
like Kyle and I got more, so because of the aquatic nature of this film on a beach, I have to go with my other favorite movie that I have made you guys. Well, I've at least made Matt watch. Very title similarity wise, Bloodhook, because fishing is rude.
Fishing is rude.
What about you,
Again.
Kyle?
All right.
A ton of fun. Again, from me, not a lot of fun. Hide and Go Shriek
Ooh.
is so painful. But again, there's
I
something
just remember the box art.
There's something so fun about The Mutilator and how they set everything up that is so satisfying. Hide and Go Shriek does the complete opposite. Sledgehammer does the setup and is satisfying in its own way. Hide and Go Shriek is unfortunately not any of those things. They just keep adding characters. It's like they're graduating from high school. They're in a furniture warehouse or like some sort of warehouse that they're just partying at.
What?
And it is abysmal. But it just gave me vibes. It just gave vibes to me about what we could pair it up with.
What was the Carly double feature?
The Carly turned to me during this, and it was probably before it ramped up, but she turned to me and goes, "This reminds me of The Fear." And The Fear, if anybody's familiar, is this wooden... Yeah. Because I think that both Carly and I thought that there was going to be some sort of twist, not him coming alive at the end and lopping off a fucking cop's legs, but I thought that the son was going to be like in on it somehow, right? They do this setup.
It feels like
right? That. So at some point in time, she turns to me and goes, "Is this going to be like The Fear, which involves a father and a son and like a scare tactic, like sort of therapy situation involving a big wooden totem of a man?"
Wait, is it not supernatural?
No, it is supernatural.
Okay, because it's on my very long list for the show.
That's a box art that I saw many a times and never watched.
Yes,
I've never seen it either.
There's this. The sequel is more fun.
There's a sequel?
You're goddamn right. There's a sequel that takes place on Halloween.
Fucking A, dude. Oh.
So the sequel is actually higher up on my list than the original.
Well, then you know I'm always a proponent of doing the sequels on the show. Anyway, continue.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, that was. I mean, it doesn't come the last 45 minutes of it. It doesn't match up well. But with that theory that there's something going on with the father and the son, and like the son's in on it. There's a good psychological situation there, but it's not a great. Again, I'm not here to have a good time. I'm here for a long time. Is that how the saying goes?
I'm here for a long time.
But yeah, those are all of the double features that could have happened here in the TK household.
Fucking brutal.
All right, Scott, what have you watched, read, listened to, etc.?
I guess this goes along with the theme of this week a little bit, and I don't want to make this sound like an explicit endorsement of this film, but I enjoyed it for being stupid as hell, and it was not as bad as I was expecting it to be. Day Shift on Netflix. It's Jamie Foxx as a vampire hunter. It was an easy way to kill an hour and a half. I was expecting it to be pretty unwatchable and just to watch it like at 5 a.m. after I feed the dogs and I'm trying to get back to sleep for a couple of days. But I actually stayed up and like I started watching at 5 a.m. I watched the whole thing. I mean, I finished at 6:30 and I was just up for the day, whatever. And I didn't love the vampire lore. I didn't give a shit about it really, but I did like the buddy cop feel of it because it gave me a Heat vibe. Or Dead Heat vibe. Dead Heat vibe, sorry. Yes, not Heat.
Way better than Michael Mann's Heat.
Yes.
Dead Heat. I love that.
All right, Kyle, have you got something to tell us about?
I don't remember if you guys had watched it or talked about it. I watched Willy's Wonderland.
I mentioned it a while back, but I don't think you'd seen it yet, right?
No, I hadn't seen it yet. My friend Jeanette and I watched it, and what happens when Jeanette comes over is we catch up on 4 or 5 things that I could talk about here on What Did We Watch? we somehow figure out a way to watch a bunch of stuff, and it's fine. Like, it's a little monotonous, and it's like, but Nicolas Cage is as a non-speaking weirdo is great. I'm a big proponent of it's maybe my least favorite animatronic / mannequin horror that I've seen.
You haven't seen enough Puppet Masters.
Yeah, that's true. I've not. I gotta work on that. Actually, I think I had my Puppet Master collection in my Killjoy collection down here somewhere, but
it seems like such a good purchase when you see it on the shelf and think 13 movies for that price.
Right, Mill Creek, keep it coming. It's fine. I could really have just done with Nicolas Cage in there going up against animatronics, but there's more characters and more building of what it is, and I could see why if somebody liked Five Nights at Freddy's that they would be like, this is the like I know that I was not the audience. Period.
That's
I was
the perfect way of explaining it. I enjoyed the watch too, but I definitely realized that it wasn't for me.
It wasn't for me, but it seems like it accomplished what it needed to.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
You know what I mean? Movie. Like, no, it's fine. It's fine. So we had fun with it. It was a good time. I wouldn't recommend or watch it again, but I did it. I got the T-shirt.
All right.
Matt, what about you, dude?
And then you took it off.
I did. Yeah, you can't see the T-shirt, but I got it.
I'm going to do two quick ones. Well, I'm going to do one quick one and one that I might expand on a little bit more. It's literally, as of today, the last episode of season 2 of Only Murders in the Building dropped. If you liked the first season, this one is just as fun and ridiculous and goofy. So I highly recommend it. But I need to talk about the show that I have not been able to stop thinking about all week since I watched it. Scott, it would be such a stressful watch for you, so I cannot, with good conscience, recommend it. I know that it is Brian's total shit, and Kyle, I think you would be fascinated by it. And that is HBO's The Rehearsal, starring
I hate
Nathan
it.
Fielder.
I hate it.
So here's the thing with The Rehearsal. The whole point of this show, by the time you get into the end of it, and listeners, you can... If you are curious about The Rehearsal and you haven't watched it, you can probably shut off the episode around this point, because the only way that I can properly parse out why I liked it as much as I did and why I can't stop thinking about it is to spoil the shit out of it a little bit, but I will try to do it in a way that doesn't fully spoil it. So Nathan Fielder had this huge show on Comedy Central called Nathan For You that constantly was blurring this line of like, is it staged? Is it reality TV? The Rehearsal takes that to such a gigantic, bigger level. And what I walked away from it was that I genuinely have no clue if what I watched was a documentary or a mockumentary. And I think that that's his point. Like, his whole purpose is like people are trying to research and they're like, but this girl who's showing up and saying all this crazy shit, like, appeared in this commercial like years ago. So I think that she was an actress that was hired to do something, like, and they're piecing it together. But it has this beautiful symmetry where I'm going to run through all the beats of this, and it still won't ruin it for people who want to watch it because it's the journey. But episode 1, Nathan proposes this concept that if you rehearse a thing enough times, you can perfect it and be like seamless with it. And he helps this guy perfect being able to tell the guys on his bar trivia team that he lied about his master's degree. And in that episode, he makes an analogy to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. He's like, you're like Willy Wonka, but he's proposing it as if Willy Wonka could be a villain. And that episode ends with pure imagination. So the second episode sets up this concept that this woman who is like super over the top Christian is trying to see what it's like to have a child to make sure that she's prepared for it while she's waiting for her husband. And the concept is that he's going to put her in a house for 2 months, and every week they are going to age up the child by 3 years with different children actors. And it's a 24-hour project, so every 6 hours they have to switch out the babies and try to do it in a seamless way that she won't notice that it's happening. But because she imagines this being with a husband, she also has to audition actors to sit in as her husband. And she finds this guy who claims to be like a born-again Christian, but then immediately he tries to fuck her on the very first night that he has to stay there, so she kicks him out. And Nathan says, I'll step up and I'll be the dad in this simulation for you since we need one. But then as the project goes on, Nathan begins to decide that he wants to be a father way more than she wants to be a mother. And they start to argue over should the baby be raised Jewish or Christian, because Nathan is Jewish, but she's Christian. And she's like, this isn't your simulation. This is my simulation. Why are you being such a control freak? So she leaves. The final episode is a child actor who sees Nathan as his actual dad because he doesn't have a dad at home, and Nathan trying to decide if the thing that he did is wrong. But at the very end of the episode, he does a simulation with the child to make the child understand, but at the end decides to declare himself as his dad. And when they hug, it is a complete recreation of Willy Wonka hugging Charlie at the end of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But that was only something that other people figured out, that they it is a shot by shot scene of that, where now everyone is like, so did we watch a real thing or did we watch a fully staged? It's like, and it's just the way that people, I put a poll online on my Instagram to see. One of the most well-received polls I've ever put on. 20% said it's totally real. 7% said it's totally staged. And the other 75% said the whole point is that we will probably never know the answer to this question. And I just think that it is insane that a random comedian from Canada was able to create such a dramatic, frustrating mind fuck of a 6-episode show.
That's Canadians for you.
Dude, the Canadians are on a whole nother level. People are going to hate it, and they're totally valid to hate it. People are going to love it. They're totally valid to love it. I genuinely don't know how I feel about it. I just know that I haven't been able to stop thinking about it since the finale aired on Friday. That's my very long-winded, pretty spoiler-filled would recommend, but like, yeah, it's a fucking trip. We're about to hit the spookiest season of the year, though, guys. October is just...
We survived
at the time that this drops, October's tomorrow.
Yeah, we dropped... we survived another listener-submitted month just in time to do the best month of the year.
Mm-hmm. The best month of the year, baby. Well, this was not a listener-submitted. This was our nice little... We gifted ourselves this one that was on the bridge of September and October.
Yes. Very nice.
And now, baby, it's spooky season.
Baby,
I'm very
you're a
excited.
haunted house.
Oh, God, I love that fucking
Me
song.
too.
Thank you for introducing that song into my life. We will be back next week with all the good horror movie night goodness.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.